Hello guys, today we will be talking about 1P76 Prism sight for AK. These optics were originally made by MPC. The original designation is PO1x20 Rakurs. In the 1990s, where side rail mounts for AKs became a standard with the 100 and 200 series of AKs, so every single AK made in that time and after that had the side rail included. That was used for side mounting this sight. The need for widely fielded sights arose because now it wasn't just a domain of the night sights or for specialists, marksmen, but the idea was that every single fighter, soldier will have some kind of sight on their weapon. In the early 2000s, NPC was asked to create a sight with maximum field of view. They opted for the sight to be a prism that allowed for cleaner lenses with less coatings. So as we know from some Russian, actually most Russian, and some cheaper red dot sights, you need quite a thick coating on the lenses so it will show the red dot properly. Since they used the prism mechanism here, they didn't need to put that many layers on the front and rear glass, so the optic appear much more cleaner. During the development, the engineers in NPC were quite often talking about Rakursnost, which means something like angle of view, so they called the optic Rakurs. The chief constructor was Mr. Mikhailichenko and the chief optician during the development was Mrs. Tikhonova. So yes, the female was involved during the development of this optic. Main purpose was as light and as compact sight as possible and quick acquisition of target while moving or shooting in a non-standard position, doing something that we call today combat style of shooting, in a day and in a night. Now we getting to the few requirements and characteristics of this optic. This is an 1 power scope to allow for maximum field of view. The type of prism used is the Schmidt-Pechan prism for maximum compactness. Exactly the same principle is also used in Reticle ACOGs. It's constructed in such a way that after zeroing the reticle will always stay in the perfect center. So that's why we have the knobs for zeroing very much in the front of the entire optic. We have a simple reticle with chevron in the middle and the perceived thickness is 1 mm for the shooter, which is easy to find. Also the constructors were kind of concerned because they wanted to make the lens a bit thinner, but the argument was that for any marksman there would be probably the SVD Dragunov, so they kept it a bit thicker, easy to acquire. The diameter of the front lens was chosen to be 20 mm beforehand, which is enough space for zeroing and also for gathering the light. Illumination is done by tritium capsule. There is no need for batteries and complex electronics and brightness setting. It's cheaper and also there is no light going outside of the optic, so just the reticle is illuminated, sometimes on red dots and for example EOTechs, when you look especially under night vision on the sides, you basically see it glowing in all sides because of the light from the red dot or from the holographic side. NPC had no experience with using tritium before, so they also created variant with light gathering stripe that we know very well from the ACOGs with regulator. After creating few prototypes like that, they rejected this idea. Glass used in 1P76 is a specialized glass that NPC catalogued as 100 series. It should have improved resistance to outer elements and also to radiation. It also is a bit more costly than the traditional lenses. One of the disadvantages of such glass is the very noticeable yellow tint, which discouraged some customers and agencies from purchasing it. The body and the mount of the optic is made out of the aluminum 32, which is the same alloy that is used in the legacy PSO scope series and pretty much every product made by MPC. During trials, shooting became 1.3 till 1.5 times more effective, with unexperienced shooters 2 to 3 times more effective. Now we will go through the variants of this optic. So the Army and Ministry of Defense version, it's exactly this one, 1P76. We can see the marking here on top. And also we can see the hammer and sickle, which is the government contract logo that NPZ uses to this day. The civilian variants, Rakurs A, which is exactly the same, just civilian markings. Rakurs A1, the same variant but with diopter. Rakurs P, which is with mount on rail and it's like long gooseneck mount. Rakurs PM, which is short compact version, also to be mounted on the Picatinny rail. The same variant PM1 with diopter. And also variant PM2, which is exactly the same, just in very modern body, very modern design. They just tried to create a more attractive variant. And also Rakurs L, that is mounted on 11mm top rail. Under the aluminum protective covers, we can see the adjustment knobs. One click is 25mm at 100 meters, which is slightly finer than 1 MOA, because 1 MOA it's 29.1mm at 100 meters. Also the clicks are very readable, very audible, so very nice to zero this optic. The field of view it's 13 degrees, which is very little by today's standard, but for the time of creation of this one it's actually quite cool. The tritium element that illuminate the reticle with a green light have lifespan of 10 years. This one that I have was actually one of the very first one ever created, so the tritium is almost dead. It's so weak that it's actually quite pleasant to be used under night vision. But on the original factory units that are not that old, it's basically impossible to use with night vision because it's so bright. Now, how common are these optics? I actually never seen one in a field, but I bet that this one is trophy as well, but I bought this one from other soldier. This one never really made it into the big army of Russian Federation. Absolute majority of the orders were made by the Interior Ministry for MVD, so you can actually see to this day a lot of the sober units using precisely this sight. They use it not only on AKs, but you can see it on the VSS Vintoresis and also on the PKMs and Pechenyeks. So I've mentioned the MVD, also border guards bought those, and most notably from the recent history during the fight in Artsakh, a lot of the Azerbaijani troops were actually equipped with this one, specifically the special purpose regiments used precisely this sight on their AKs of 100 series. The production of this sight is by now discontinued, so around 2010 till 2015 they actually finished producing those. The main problem was that so many of the foreign optics became so much better and also cheaper, for example Holosun, and this was actually quite expensive sight to make, so when you had in a shop this sight next to the Holosun. So guys, those are the rubber covers. They are removable. Just when you unscrew here and here, you can remove them completely, and if you want to use this sight in a normal setting, I would definitely recommend to remove those and have just some thin fabric cover with a rubber on the bottom that you would fit from top. That would be my recommendation. Other than that, very pleasant optic to shoot. Now, what is my opinion about it? Over my lifetime, I tried pretty much all of the sights from the NPC and also from the Zenit Belomo. So any variants of scoped sights, for example, including the Venezuelan variants, also the Cobras, all kinds of sights like that. And I must admit that this one is one of the best, because it doesn't try to do something fancy, something crazy, as most of the Russian sights do. The metric for any Russian or Belarusian sight is it worth it over mechanical sights? And absolutely majority of them don't, but this one actually does. When you take it, you can see that it's quite rugged, that there is not some unnecessary complexity to it. It's very straightforward, pretty much the same appeal like, for example, ACOGs have, because it's exactly the same Prism site, right? Of course, I must admit that it's completely inferior to something like EOTech. But it's a Prism, it stays on at all times because the reticle is etched, right? You might have sometimes problems, especially on this one, where the tritium is pretty much dead. You still have just an optic, 1x20 optic, so in a dusk, in the night, you will have a real problem without night vision to see the reticle. Actually not a real problem, you will just not see it. So that's a huge disadvantage. Also the eye relief, it's quite forgiving because it's one power, but still it plays its role. So any red dot sight will be just so much better because the eye relief just doesn't matter there. So when you are in some very awkward position, with backpack, with rocket over you, trying to acquire the sight picture, this one will always be worst compared to the red dot sight. What is kind of amazing is that this is not actually 1x optic. Because there is surely no magnification, it's actually a bit negative, let's say. So the target appear actually a bit further than in true 1x optic on or red dot sight. You can kind of tolerate it, but recently I was shooting at circles of diameter around 7 centimeters, 7-10 centimeters at a distance of 100 meters. And there you really need to see properly with 1x optic. And it was very noticeable that they actually appear a bit further, that I shoot the same through EOTech with M4, and the target appeared to be much closer than through this side. So it's not that big of an issue in a normal world where you shooting at windows, bigger targets, but when you actually get into some precision and want to shoot some small groups, it will actually become very noticeable and kind of annoying. But overall, it's really cool collector's item, and if you get the opportunity to buy this one used for some good price, a lot of people bought those over the years and they don't really know what they have, so on forums in the West you can definitely purchase those if you are patient enough. So if you wish to support us and for me to create more videos, you can use the PayPal link down below, or you can become YouTube member for extra videos. So thank you very much guys for watching and see you in the next one.